Hi, welcome back to the Fusion tutorial series for D&T Stage 5. This is Mrs. Valent. I'm going to go through how you can take a model, such as the one you might make for the child's toy unit, and turn it into an orthogonal presentation. Orthogonal presentations are really important to show construction detail, size, dimension, all of that great information, all the parts and how they relate to each other. All right, so one important thing about Fusion before you create your orthogonal presentation is you need to ensure the right Australian standards for the drawing you're about to create. Now, being a program that was not developed and defaults are not set to Australian standards, you have to actually go in and change these. So up in the corner where it shows you're signed in and your initials, just click on that. Go to preferences. This is absolutely before you create the drawing. So go into preferences and it'll come up with a pop-up. Under your general preferences, you'll see drawing. Now in drawing, you need to choose ISO from the standard top drop-down. And then, of course, you've got a sheep size, which I've chosen A4 landscape. That's fine. What's important here is that you check this little box here that says override or restore format defaults below. It's always set to first angle. First angle is what they use for American standards. We're, of course, working to Australian standards here. And we want to change that from first angle to third angle. Okay, if you want to know more about that, you can go look that up, but we need to be using third angle, and that's important when we generate our presentations in an orthogonal view. The rest can be left as default, hit apply, okay, and now we're ready to create the drawing. We come up here to file and make sure you've all saved and go new drawing from design. In the pop-up over here under create drawing, if you have a template, there are some templates that exist. You can choose that here. Make sure you've got ISO chosen as well, because we're going to be using that standard. It gives us all the A's, B's, and so forth size papers. So we need the ISO for the paper size. So choose A4 landscape, click OK. Now, as it generates, you're going to immediately be given an initial base view. So immediately following my cursor is the base view that it's just decided to give me. Now I can change that here in the orientation drop down. I can choose a different orientation for my base view, which I'll also make my front view. The front view is the key view for an orthogonal and needs to show the most information. For the scale, it's very small. Let's change this to 1:2 for this particular drawing. If you have a very large object, you might go to 1:10 or 1:5. Use a scale that's common. Don't use a strange scale like 1:3.5. Orthogonal really is important that you choose a standard scale like 1:1, 1:2, 1:5, 1:10, 1:20, and so on up. Okay. If you're not sure, just ask your teacher. Now, as far as giving us an outline, when I place this, it will give me an outline, but it won't actually give me hidden detail. And I really do need hidden detail. So I want more than just the visible edges around the edge of my shape, my design. I also want to see the hidden detail, which is, again, something that is characterized, orthogonal drawings are characterized by. Now I'm going to place this in the bottom left-hand quadrant of my sheet because I need to place two other views above and to the side of it. So here I only need space below it for a label, but I need space above and to each side for dimensions. So if I place that down here and click OK, you can see there it's got the dashed line showing the hidden detail. That's obviously lines that you can't see necessarily normally when you're looking at the object square on, but exists on the design behind that surface. All right, now we've got our front view. We also need to place a top and a side, and we choose that was the base view, and you already placed that. So the next ones are projected view. I choose my base view to build my projected views off. So as I drag my cursor around, my projected view changes. For orthogonal, we need a top view, and I'll place that above my front view, and a side view to potentially give me more information that I can't see on the other two views. Okay, now I know people are often very tempted to give themselves a 3D view here, but I would encourage you only if it's a fairly simple design. It can end up crowding your drawing, especially if you need to do some detail views, which I'm happy to show you, which is just a little balloon out of a higher scale of one small aspect. Okay, so I'm just going to press escape because I don't want any further views. And again, you can see these hidden detail lines. So you can see the axle goes all the way through. You can see where the curves begin and end. This is actually the hole through for the window of the truck. So you can see the edges of the hole, and it goes all the way through and things like that. So it does give very useful information that can actually be referenced when you're doing some dimensioning. So on your orthogonal view, you've got your views now. You've got your 3 views. You need to label these. This first one, just creating a text box, is the front view. Okay. The front view is the one that gives us the most information, and always sits below the top view and to the side of any side view, of course. Above that, and this is a standard that is used for third angle projection. Top view is always above a front view for third angle. So we're going to call this a top view. And down here on the side, we're going to label this the side view. We could also call it the right side view because it's sitting to the right of the front view. Now, the way you can reference this is if you're looking top down on the truck, that's what you would see top down. And on the side, if I was looking around to the side of my front view, to the right side of my front view, this is the view that I should be looking at. And that, again, needs to be correct as per third angle projection. And that was why we set that up before we created our views and our drawing sheet. Now we've got everything labeled, we need to put dimensions on it, which again is something that is very particular and unique for orthogonal. Under the dimensions drop down, you've got one here called linear dimension. You could choose the smart dimension tool and it will give you some simple dimensions. But if you wanted to have better control over it, you probably should choose something a bit different. I often use linear dimension. I find that it gives me a little more control over what I select as my begin and end point. So I might just undo that previous dimension. And if I use linear dimension, it means that I can choose from there to there, and I can dimension that distance, which is potentially quite important. I can choose from there to there, and I can also distance that. I can choose from here to here, and I can keep moving across here to here, and I can put some dimensions in that are important to the construction of this particular shape or this design. Okay, looking at these dimensions, you can see that they're fairly big. I think there's usually options to make the text smaller. If I double click, maybe that's going to give me some options or not. Yeah. Okay. I think when I'm placing it, I could probably give some options there, but anyway. All right, so I'm going to put down a few more dimensions. Let's see, from there to there, pop down that. Now I've got this tiny little gap in here. This is where detail view would probably be a really important thing to include. So here under create, I've got a detail view. So if I click on that, what I can do I'm going to click on making a detail view, so a larger view of just this area where my wheel is sitting out from the body. So I'm going to choose that. Now I'm choosing a center point of my detail view, and then I'm just going to create a bubble, and to the side, not too far from what I'm referencing, I'm going to place that detail view from parent. Again, I want visible and hidden, and I click OK. So there it is. You can see A, and it's been labeled here. It's been taken off the page. I need to keep that on the page, very important. Now what I can do is I can pop a dimension on this point from this point to this point and show how that is 2 mil apart, which would have been very, very difficult on a 1:2 scale, but on 1:1, you can see that that's a lot easier to dimension. And of course, because I didn't have that 3D view there, I had the space to do that. And that is important for orthogonal, that we provide as much detail as possible without getting too overcomplicated. So if I've put a dimension somewhere that, like here, the 36 wide, if I put a dimension on this one that was also referencing the exact same thing, this is considered doubling up and over dimensioning. So I essentially, this second one is redundant because I already have created a reference like for that width, for the depth of the object on this top view, and I don't need it on the side view, and that's considered over dimensioning, and it does make our view more cluttered, and it reduces the efficiency of the communication there. Of course, there's a few other things I need to pop in. If it's not a full circle, you should use the radius tool. So I've got a few here that I need to pop in. Oh, that didn't really come out very well, so I'll try that one again. Just undo. Yeah, and pop my radius on this. Yeah, and this one would be more of a diameter, and a diameter, whereas these are more radius. Okay, so where it's not a full circle, radius is more appropriate, whereas if it's a full circle, diameter would be the best, most appropriate option. So here we go. I was pulling this out. Now, again, you can see here 36.5, I'm doubling up. I've got it up here. It's in effect redundant, and it's over dimensioning. So I can just remove that because it is unnecessary. So I can also right click, delete it. Yeah, yes, yes, delete. Okay, okay. All right, so checking, they probably need this one here. I could, try and avoid dimensioning on top of your object. So here, it really wants to put it on top of the object. I'm going to pull it out to the side so the numbers are not on top of my shape, because again, it's going to clutter it up. There's a lot of information going on, even for such a simple object like this. Now, once I've got all this done, make sure that you've got the proper title block information in there. The only thing I don't have in here is the name of the drawing type. So orthogonal toy truck. Okay, and there we go. Okay. Drawing number, this might be part of a set of drawings, so it might be drawing 1 of 2 if you've got another drawing, or you might obviously put your isometric or perspective rendered view on a different sheet. So this might be 1 of 2. If you've also got another drawing sheet that shows like a sectional, it would be 1 of 3. Okay. And you should put a date on there, but it's already got a date, and you don't need approved by. It's got a few other things that we don't necessarily have to have on there. You might have in department, you might have D&T as the subject, which that would be relevant. D&T for this particular design, making sure that that sits neatly there. Okay, and that's about it. All right. Now, in saving my drawing, that's very important. I'm going to hit save. I'll do a version 2. Okay. I can do a screenshot, and often people do a screenshot, but the problem with screenshots is that it doesn't give you the resolution that things like exporting a PDF would do. So if I export a PDF right here, and I'm just going to say, I'm going to open it as well, just so I can inspect it and say, okay, it will generate a PDF. And that PDF is going to be a lot more accurate, especially if printing. This, you know, and the scale won't be incorrect. So the scale of 1 to 2, if I just did a screenshot, that's definitely going to be wrong scaling, because I'm going to stretch and squash it on my portfolio. Whereas if I print this PDF off, the scale will be true. Okay. If I wanted to keep this but needed it as an image in Acrobat Pro, I can also go export to image, and I can create a JPEG, keeping that same scale. Okay. So again, that image is going to be printed on an A4 sheet, as long as it's not resized or scaled in other ways. That will keep that true scale, and the accuracy of all of that detail will be captured. All right, that's the end of the tutorial for orthogonal presentation with the detail view.